Welcome to HD Rare Coins, your ultimate source for rare coins, fascinating history, and the thrill of discovery. From legendary pennies to hidden gems, we explore the world of numismatics one amazing coin at a time. In the year 2012, while the world prepared to survive a predicted Mayan apocalypse, America was undergoing quiet changes. Smartphones were beginning to rule our hands, social media was replacing dinner table conversations, and cash, especially coins, were being used less and less. But through it all, one small, nearly forgotten relic of physical currency continued to be minted, pressed, and distributed by the millions, the humble 1 cent penny. Among them, minted without fanfare in Philadelphia and Denver, was a coin that bore the familiar face of Abraham Lincoln. A coin that most Americans would handle briefly, drop into a coin jar, lose under couch cushions, or spend without a second thought. But for collectors, for historians, for those with an eye trained to notice the rare among the ordinary, the 2012 penny was more than pocket change. It was a modern marvel in miniature. Though the design of the coin had changed just a few years earlier, the version released in 2012 was still fresh and striking. Gone were the twin wheat ears that flanked the denomination from 1909 to 1958. Gone, too, was the Lincoln Memorial that stood on the reverse from 1959 to 2008. Instead, the reverse bore the bold, stylized image of a Union shield, 13 vertical stripes topped by a banner that read, E Pluribus Unum. A design meant to symbolize unity, to echo the nation's founding strength. The shield's surface gleamed, geometric and proud, wrapped around the simple phrase, 1 cent. Yet it was on the obverse, Lincoln's steadfast gaze and the telltale date, 2012, that the real story began. That year, the U.S. Mint produced over 5.8 billion Lincoln cents, 2.9 billion from Philadelphia, and 2.5 billion from Denver. With numbers like that, it would be easy to assume these coins were too common to care about. And yet, as every collector knows, value isn't just about mintage numbers. It's about condition. About errors. About chance, and chance was what made the 2012 penny unforgettable. A handful of 2012 cents, struck at Philadelphia, left the mint bearing subtle but powerful differences. Some displayed die clashes, where the obverse and reverse dies slammed together without a planchet in place, leaving ghostly impressions of the opposing designs on each die face. These clash marks transferred to the coins themselves, creating eerie outlines of a Union shield on Lincoln's cheek or his bowtie on the stripes of the shield. At first, they confused even seasoned collectors. But soon, they became legends. Then there were the double dies, faint but distinct. On a few of the 2012 coins, particularly those from Denver, the word liberty or the motto, In God We Trust, appeared slightly doubled when viewed under magnification. Not enough to be dismissed as machine doubling, but just bold enough to make experts take notice. The doubling caught the eye of graders. And suddenly, the 2012 Double Die Obverse was being added to official error registries. One such example, sent in for grading and labeled 2012 DDOFS 101, was placed in a PCGS holder with a grade of MS67RD, a stunning, fiery red specimen with perfect strike and minimal marks. It later fetched $1,700 at a coin show in Florida, but even more remarkable were the coins that shouldn't have existed at all. In 2012, all U.S. cents were supposed to be struck on copper-plated zinc planchets, 2.5% copper over a 97.5% zinc core. But one lucky find in Arizona changed everything. A hobbyist using a metal detector in a dried-out desert field unearthed what he assumed was just another modern penny. But when weighed, it came in at 3.11 grams, the weight of the old bronze planchets used before 1982. A 2012 penny on a bronze planchet? Impossible, but the metallurgical test confirmed it. The coin was struck in bronze. Most likely, a leftover blank had somehow been stored, misplaced, then accidentally fed into a press at the Philadelphia Mint. The error went unnoticed, until that day, years later, under the desert sun. The coin was authenticated, encapsulated, and ultimately sold to a private collector for $9,800. And it didn't stop there. Another 2012 penny turned up with a dramatic off-center strike, missing over 20% of the design and pushing Lincoln's face toward the edge like a warped relic of reality. Combined with strong red luster and uncirculated grade, it became a fan favorite, fetching $4.20 at auction, every time someone pulled out a 2012 penny to buy a coffee, to feed a parking meter, or to make a wish in a fountain, they were unknowingly handling a story. Maybe it was just a coin. Or maybe, just maybe, it was one of the rare few, an error, a survivor, a treasure in disguise. By the time 2012 rolled around, most Americans didn't know, or care, that their pocket change was slowly becoming obsolete. Credit cards swiped faster than coins could clink. Phones paid for groceries. Even vending machines began rejecting pennies altogether. But somewhere in quiet corners of America, in coin clubs and classrooms, the humble 2012 penny was being seen not as a discard, but as a classroom hero. In elementary schools from Minnesota to Oregon, teachers used rolls of 2012 cents as tools to teach children how to count, how to recognize presidents, and how to understand the physical value of money. One school in Utah even launched a penny science project, where students soaked different years of pennies in vinegar and salt to study how quickly different metals corroded. In those jars, side by side, copper turned green, and zinc foamed white. But the 2012 penny, with its sleek copper plating, held on a little longer than expected. One child, fascinated by the project, brought a handful of coins home and began organizing them by date and mint mark. His father noticed something strange about one of the pennies from Denver. Under magnification, the shield design on the reverse looked thick. Almost too thick. As if it had been doubled. Curious, the father submitted the coin for grading. It came back as a 2012 Double Die Reverse, DDR, a variety not yet listed on most major catalogs at the time. That coin, later confirmed by multiple experts, became known among collectors as the Shield Ghost, the first publicly confirmed 2012 DDR. It graded MS66RD and sold for $2,200 in a private transaction. The child used the money to start a new coin collection, and he never looked at spare change the same way again. But the world of collectors didn't stop at classrooms or family finds. Coin roll hunters, those tireless individuals who pick up boxes of pennies from banks, unroll them by the thousands, and search for treasures, began to turn their attention to 2012 after whispers of double dies and strange planchets spread across numismatic forums. One hunter in North Carolina detailed how, after searching through nearly $500 worth of pennies, he found just one 2012 penny that was off-center, slightly rotated, and still gleaming with red luster. A modern marvel. He had it graded. It came back MS65RD with an off-center strike error of 15%. That one coin, originally worth just a cent, sold $4.370. The most passionate collectors knew that pristine examples of modern pennies, especially from 2012, were harder to come by than people assumed. Because while the U.S. Mint churned out billions of coins, very few were saved in true uncirculated condition. Most were tossed into circulation instantly, scratched, dinged, spent, forgotten. That's why, when a 2012 Philadelphia Mint cent surfaced in MS69RD, the numismatic world held its breath. Graded by PCGS, the coin was nearly flawless. Its fields were reflective. Its devices were crisp. Under high magnification, graders could not find a single contact mark, only a whisper of imperfection in the copper-plated surface kept it from being perfect. The penny was auctioned at a major event in 2022 and drew unexpected attention. Bidding started modestly, but jumped quickly past $500, then $1,000. Two anonymous collectors battled until the gavel dropped at $3,650. It had been sitting there for over 15 years, buried behind a shelf of vintage beer steins and forgotten Christmas ornaments. Ellis, a retired postal worker turned roll hunter, had found it while searching for a wrench. And now, it was time to open the roll that would change everything. Inside, 32 of the coins had that fresh mint sheen. 15 had minor abrasions. 2 looked off. He placed the first odd one under his 20x loop. And there it was. The AM in America, they were touching. A chill ran up his spine. For a trained eye, the 1999 penny offered one of modern numismatics' most intriguing mysteries, the wide AM versus close AM varieties. On most 1999 pennies, the A and M in America are nearly fused, a standard design feature since 1993. But a few rare 1999 coins, struck with a proof reverse die intended only for special mint sets, accidentally slipped into general circulation. These coins had a gap. A space. A breath between the letters, the wide AM. They were scarce. They were famous. And they were valuable. Ellis had found not one, but two. He submitted both. One came back MS-64 red. The other? A jaw-dropping MS-66 red, verified by PCGS. He sold the lower-grade coin for $950. The MS-66, it went for $6,750, the highest known sale at that grade that year, and just like that, the 1999 penny was back in the spotlight, but the wide AM wasn't the only secret hiding in the 1999 series. That year, the Philadelphia Mint alone produced over 5.2 billion Lincoln cents. Denver added over 6.3 billion. In sheer volume, it was one of the most prolific penny years in U.S. history. Most were zinc core with copper plating, like all cents minted since the switch in 1982. But when you strike billions of coins, even the tightest quality control can't catch every anomaly. That's where the magic lies. Some collectors began noticing die chips, small raised bumps caused by breaks in the die, appearing more frequently in 1999 coins. One of the most well-known appeared like a faint third ear on Lincoln's head. It was unofficially dubbed the Devil's Whisper, because it gave Honest Abe a strangely sinister look. Though minor, it created a frenzy among error coin lovers, with high-grade examples fetching between $80 and $120 on the market. But it wasn't just about errors. A new wave of collectors, digital-age numismatists armed with HD cameras and YouTube followings, began re-evaluating late 90s coins. Many, they claimed, were overlooked due to their youth. But now, with enough time passed, these coins were aging into a new status. Modern classics. The 1999 penny, they said, was at the center. Videos with titles like, "Is your 1999 penny worth $10,000?" began trending. Instagram collectors posted side-by-side comparisons of wide AMs and close AMs. TikTok creators filmed real-time roll hunts with dramatic music and close-up reactions to any unusual find. Suddenly, a generation raised to believe that coins were obsolete was rediscovering them with reverence. It was more than nostalgia. It was archaeology. In Texas, a coin dealer named Camila uncovered a sealed bank box of 1999 pennies in a basement she was hired to clean out. One roll had a coin with die rotation error, a noticeable twist where Lincoln's bust didn't align with the reverse. Graded MS-65 red rotated reverse, it fetched $3,200 on eBay. That same week, in California, a 12-year-old found a double die reverse while looking through her grandmother's coin jar. Her local coin club helped her submit it. It came back as MS-64 RD DDR-FS 802, one of only two known in that grade. She didn't sell it, she framed the certification and kept it on her desk as motivation. But perhaps the most jaw-dropping discovery happened not in a coin shop or a collector's house, but on a subway platform in New York City. A man named Devin was waiting for his train when he spotted a glinting penny wedged between two tiles. He pried it loose, and something about the color, deep red, almost glowing, caught his eye. He brought it to his brother, who happened to collect. That coin, after cleaning, carefully, with distilled water, was submitted. PCGS returned it as a 1999 P wide AM, MS-67 red, the finest known. It sold at auction $4.17,850. The coin had lived under the floor of a public station for over 2 decades. The story made headlines in numismatic publications, and so, the legend of the 1999 penny grew. Some began whispering about a missing transitional error, a theory that during the switch between design styles, a few 1999 cents were struck on leftover 1989 style dies. So far, no concrete example had been confirmed. But the possibility kept collectors hungry. Every roll, every drawer, every jar in the attic, all potential treasure chests. In 2024, a private collector named Roshan announced that he had assembled the most complete 1999 Lincoln cent error set in existence: wide AM, close AM, misaligned dies, double dies, off-centers, struck on dime planchets, bonded pair errors, and one suspected proof reverse mint state strike. He was offered $88,000 by a Hong Kong investor. He declined, said he wanted to finish the story. There were still 3 rumored varieties he hadn't yet acquired. When asked which coin he considered the most valuable of the set, he smiled. "The one I found in my own junk drawer." And that's the magic of the 1999 penny, not because it was supposed to be rare, but because even in its billions, even in its ordinariness, it defied the odds. It invited the careful, rewarded the patient, and dared the world to look just a little bit closer. Today, if someone hands you a penny from 1999, they're offering more than change. They're offering a chance at a possibility, maybe even a miracle, because yes, one such coin, an uncirculated, wide AM, brilliant MS67 red with no spots, no chips, and a perfectly centered strike, sold at private auction in early 2025. The final bid, $23,000. And the bidder, an anonymous YouTuber who built a 1 million subscriber channel off the back of a single lucky find. The coin now sits on display in a glass case behind him. Whenever a viewer asks why he never sold it, he replies, "Not all heroes wore gloves and carried loops. Some stumbled into history with nothing but luck and curiosity." That's exactly how 13-year-old Miles, from Omaha, found himself at the center of a national numismatic buzz. He wasn't a collector. He was just a kid doing a school project about things people don't notice anymore. For some reason, he chose the penny. A week later, he walked into a coin shop with a Ziploc bag filled with coins pulled from old couch cushions and car floor mats. Among them was a 1999 penny that looked too perfect. The shop owner froze. Under magnification, everything was sharp. Lincoln's cheekbone was sculpted with razor precision. The fields were like glass. The color? A blazing crimson red that collectors dream about. It was a 1999 P wide AM, yes, but this wasn't just any wide AM. The coin was flawless. Miles left the shop that day with no money, but with a submission form and a new friend in the coin world. Weeks later, PCGS graded it MS68RD. One of a kind. No other wide AM had ever reached that level. The auction house went quiet before the storm. The bidding war that followed wasn't just between collectors. It was a proxy war between museums, legacy buyers, and content creators who knew the legend of the Miles penny would become part of American coin history. The final hammer price, $41,250. The press caught wind of it. Miles was interviewed on local and national news. His teacher gave him an A+ and invited a coin expert to speak to the whole class. And just like that, one of the most common coins in U.S. history transformed again, this time from school project to millionaire legend. And still, there was more. Collectors began to wonder, what else was hidden in plain sight. For years, many had focused solely on the wide AM. But a few began revisiting known double die listings, especially on the reverse. The FS801, a known variety with doubling on the columns of the Lincoln Memorial, was long thought to be rare, but unremarkable in value. That changed when a Virginia dealer found one in MS67RD, the first of its kind. The die lines danced in the fields like ghost shadows. Even the memorial steps had a mirrored echo. The coin wasn't just a double die, it was a work of accidental art. It sold at auction for $14,900, sparking a whole new era of deep scanning and reclassification. Grading services, now overwhelmed with 1999 submissions, began issuing cautionary memos. New, enhanced imaging protocols were adopted, designed to catch even microscopic die varieties that were once overlooked. The penny from 1999 had become a cultural artifact. Coin documentaries emerged. One called One Cent a Fortune, the 1999 penny, aired on streaming platforms, featuring interviews with collectors, mint historians, and even former mint employees who hinted at undocumented dies being used during the final months of that year's production. One of them, speaking with face blurred, said, "We didn't always log everything. Sometimes you had a die you weren't supposed to use. But the schedule didn't care. The machines didn't stop." That quote became legendary. Printed on t-shirts. Quoted on coin forums. It added fuel to the fire. What if there were still unknown 1999 varieties out there? Ones that no one had even discovered yet. And then the unthinkable happened. A penny, struck in 1999, surfaced, except it wasn't copper-plated zinc. It was bronze. The coin, found in a Seattle estate sale, was heavier by half a gram. The color was subtly different, the sound sharper when dropped. It was real. Verified. Slipped through the cracks, struck on a leftover pre-1982 planchet. How it happened, no one knows. But the effect was immediate. That coin became the most talked about Lincoln cent in a generation, graded MS-63 brown. It sold at a heritage auction for $46,000. Only one example was known at the time, a double rarity. That coin, misjudged by some as damaged, quietly sold to a savvy collector for just $80. A year later, with confirmed rarity status, it was flipped at a national auction for $100, and then came the whispers from the West Coast that a dealer in California claimed to have found a 1999 business strike penny. Everyone said it was impossible. San Francisco hadn't produced business strike cents in decades, they only made proofs. But this coin wasn't mirrored like a proof. It didn't carry the shimmer or detail of a specially made collector coin that it was dull. Circulated. Dirty even. But there, clearly stamped, an S mint mark that he sent it for grading. Experts at NGC were baffled. Some believed it may have been a proof strike released into circulation, a collector's coin accidentally spent, lost to time, then rediscovered. If true, its value could be in the five-figure range, depending on condition. That coin's whereabouts today are unknown. It vanished into a private collection, wrapped in cotton and sealed in a vault, only whispered about at trade shows and online forums. Then there was the black penny, another 1999 Lincoln cent appeared, this time in the hands of a teenager in Michigan. It wasn't just dark. It was pitch black, unnaturally so. At first, it was thought to be a chemically altered coin, maybe someone trying to turn it into jewelry or a novelty item. But after metallurgical testing, something strange was revealed. The coin had been struck on a misprocessed planchet, likely overbaked during annealing or exposed to excessive heat during minting. The result was a darkened, oxidized surface, but with original mint luster still present beneath. Graded MS-65BN, it sold to a color variety collector for $620. 1 cent, almost entirely black, yet valuable precisely because of what went wrong during its creation. In a forgotten schoolhouse in upstate New York, built in the late 1800s and left to decay in the 1980s, a group of history students and their teacher were helping clean the space for its conversion into a museum. Beneath a loose floorboard near the chalk-dusted corner of what was once the front row, they found a pile of objects lost to time, old buttons, marbles, fragments of pencils, and among them, a small scattering of pennies coated in dust. The teacher, curious, brushed off one of the coins and noticed the unmistakable shine of copper, not green with age, not dulled by time, but relatively fresh. The date? 1999, it stood out, oddly out of place. The penny didn't have the usual wear expected of a coin that had supposedly been sitting in wood and dirt for over 2 decades. When he examined it more closely, his heart jumped. The coin had no visible mint mark. That shouldn't have been possible, because all 1999 pennies from Denver were marked with AD, and the Philadelphia cents, while minted without a letter, had certain design tells. But this one was different. It wasn't a close AM. It wasn't a wide AM. It was something, in between. The spacing didn't align with either known variety. The coin had characteristics of both dies, as if the mint had caught a transition mid-process and struck only a handful before correcting the error. He sent the coin for examination. Experts were stunned. It appeared to be a transitional reverse hybrid, a new type entirely. It was labeled, 1999 Lincoln cent, transitional reverse die variety, discovery piece. The only one of its kind ever certified. It went on display for a time in the very museum that schoolhouse would become, then quietly sold at a numismatic convention for $9,700, bought by a private collector who called it a ghost caught in copper. But perhaps number 1999 penny captivated collectors more than the tale of the perfect coin. Most coins, even straight from mint rolls, show some flaw, microscopic nicks, soft details, tiny contact marks. That's why grading companies like PCGS and NGC rarely ever assign a perfect MS-70RD grade to business strike pennies. It's considered the modern collector's white whale. Then, in early 2020, it happened that a collector in Arizona, who'd submitted over 300 modern pennies for grading, opened his latest results from PCGS. Most came back in the 64 to 67 range, as expected. But one coin, just one, was different. 1999 1C, MS70RD got a perfect grade. Not even a speck of imperfection. Every detail on Lincoln's portrait sharp as a razor. Field smooth, clean, radiant. Under the microscope, it looked as if time had frozen the moment the die kissed the planchet. The numismatic world erupted. Forums lit up. Was this the real deal? Could a 1999 business strike truly achieve numismatic perfection?